Hi, my name is Dan Severn. Sometimes I'm known as the Beast. I'm from the United States, from the great state of Michigan. My background is freestyle and Greco-Roman wrestling. When I step into the Valley Tudo this evening, I will expect the unexpected, and I will release the Beast.
Let's go! Welcome to the Cage Nation. Welcome to the Cage Nation. Welcome to the Cage Nation. No one can drop us, no one can stop us. We are the warriors, no one can top us. No one can rock us, we are the warriors. No one can drop us, no one can stop us. We are the warriors, no one can top us. No one can rock us, we are the warriors.
We gotta wonder, is Coldwater, Michigan the most dangerous place on earth? I'll say no, and you know why? Because Dan the Beast Severn is a citizen. You don't walk into Dan Severn's town speaking jive. Ladies and gentlemen,
amen to that.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Cage Nation TV, of course. A very Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas!
Absolutely, and our present to you is we are bringing you a full-length interview with easily one of the biggest names in all of mixed martial arts, Dan the Beast Severn.
That's right. We met him at Complete Devastation MMA 2, all the way back in,
November 2011.
You sure about that?
No. November 2011 was CDMMA 1. November 2012 was CDMMA 2.
You sure about that?
No.
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 You were right the first time.
Then why did you do that to me, Drew?
Because I'm just making
Why
sure.
did you do that to me?
It's what I do. Yeah, we met Dan Severn in November of 2011.
And I'll tell you one of the things I'm kind of jealous of. You actually got to stand in the cage with Dan Severn.
I did.
But I got to eat pizza with the guy.
So did I.
Well, I was cooler when I did it.
I could eat pizza, drink beer, and then we had a private, cameras were off, a private, at least 20-25 minute, or which is, I would go almost a half hour talk with Dan Severn.
I honestly think it was closer to 45 minutes.
Maybe it was that in the old, it was the old studios back when the AON Rundown, which was a TV show that I was a part of, was still airing for pro wrestling on ABC 23. We used that set, we just stood there and we talked to the guy. We talked to him about pro wrestling, we talked to him about MMA. Mostly we talked to him about pro wrestling though, I think.
You guys talk to him more about pro wrestling. I walk up to Dan Severn and be like, "Hi Dan, I'm a really big fan of yours," and then I rehash his entire career.
Yeah, exactly. I'm standing there looking. I didn't know I lived it.
But I think that conversation with Dan Severn is when the guys who were producing the TV shows, namely the MMA Rundown, they realized that hey, Albert knows a little bit about MMA.
Right. And it was that weekend that kind of launched you into the whole Complete Devastation MMA thing. You became the commentator at that point, and then we started.
No, I didn't do 2. We did 3.
No, I know. I was saying from after that.
I almost died falling off the tree stand.
Yeah, after you kind of showed your MMA knowledge and prowess and stuff like that. That's when everyone at Go Time Promotions was like, "Hey, this kid knows his stuff. Bring him in. He and Drew can do commentary on the DVDs and stuff like that."
And
so
a little TV show that was known as the MMA Rundown. That was also on ABC 23.
That was born.
That was all because of Dan Severn. So Dan giveth, and he didn't take it away.
How many more episodes do we have to go until we beat our length of time?
This is 25.
Okay.
The MMA Rundown went to 31.
Do we want to count? I know, but do we want to count some of those other episodes that were in there that we don't actually call episode numbers? You want to think about that?
We might be close. I'll go back and count. But at that point, we'll be in the Cage Nation guys who used to do the MMA Rundown, not the MMA Rundown guys who are now doing Cage Nation.
All right. Well, anyways.
So
we're calling this episode 25, and it's apropos because Christmas is on the 25th, and we got our festive Christmas hats on.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So this whole episode is about the legend of MMA that just keeps on giving. We're talking about Dan the Beast Severn. We have a wonderful interview with Dan. The guy knows so much.
He does.
I mean, even though he's not fighting anymore, he's just still giving so much to the world of mixed martial arts. And the fact that he talked to us, I mean, that just says leaps and bounds what a great guy he is.
It's an honor. Coming up, we have our MMA newsreel. We're going to tell you about some of the things that have been going on in the past week, local, regional, national, international, and then we'll get into the Cameron Underground, which is, you've handpicked another one.
Oh, yes, I have.
Yeah.
I dug deep for this one. So we're talking to Dan Severn on for our interview. We get to hear the softer side of the man, like, the stories, this veteran who is just so willing to talk about things, and then we get to see him fight. We get the transition from Daniel Severn, coach of wrestling, to the Beast.
Right.
And we got a big episode coming up, so you guys stay tuned. We got the newsreel coming up. We're gonna come out of the newsreel and we're gonna talk to Dan Severn.
All right, stick around. It's all coming up next on this special edition of Cage Nation TV.
It's time for another edition of Cage Nation TV Newsreel, spanning the globe to bring you the latest news in MMA.
Well, Shooto Brazil's man versus woman fight will not take place. Representatives from Shooto Brazil have gone on record to say that the fight announcement of a man versus woman fight was a publicity stunt to bring attention to the growing domestic violence problem in the country of Brazil. Quote, "The fight that caused controversy in the world served to draw attention to a very important topic, domestic violence. Do your part and report," a statement on the Shooto Brazil Facebook page read. "This fight will not happen in the ring, but outside it. Domestic violence is happening in thousands of homes. Do your part and report any domestic violence that you see." Strawweight Ashley Evans Smith was just picked up by the World Series of Fighting. A few months ago, the MMA world was rocked by the controversy of the transgender fighter Fallon Fox and the repercussions that such a fighter would have on the sport. One fighter who was not concerned with the politics surrounding the story was Ashley Evans Smith. Ms. Evans Smith has just proved that her can-do attitude pays off, and she is one of the recent signings to the World Series of Fighting. WSOF's other acquisition for the female division was Emmy, the kamikaze angel Fujino, further proof that the ladies are taking mainstream MMA by storm. Rampage Jackson threatens man outside of a club in defense of his girlfriend. Bellator light heavyweight Quinton Rampage Jackson's in the spotlight again. The former UFC 205-pound champion was seen outside of a Los Angeles nightclub, TMZ reports, having words with an anonymous clubgoer. Rampage was quoted as saying, "Tell my girlfriend sorry, and you ain't gonna do that expletive no more. Or are you about to go to the expletive hospital," Jackson said. When the clubber refused to apologize, Rampage continued, "You think I'm lying? He thinks I'm lying." Club security had to intervene to put an end to the altercation. No one was hurt or arrested.
Don't worry about remote signal blockage again. Introducing the Top Mount. This low-profile shelf is perfect for placing your cable box where you can use it. The easy-to-install lightweight shelf is designed to fit behind almost any flat screen TV, with or without a wall mount. The Top Mount is perfect for easy access to cable boxes, game consoles, and DVD players. Don't have your signal blocked again. Order your Top Mount today at thetopmount.com.
And you tell the producers that I don't think it's funny at all putting the bigger guy in a Santa hat.
Whoa.
Oh, I am so sorry. Well, it's the season to be jolly, right?
Yeah. Dude, it's Christmas time. In a few days, they're going to be celebrating
Says
Christmas.
the man with Bah Humbug written on his hat.
Excuse me a second.
Attaboy.
All right.
Okay, so
Let's continue. I couldn't find a black Santa hat. I needed a black Santa hat to go. It's just me, okay? And the only ones they had were Bah Humbug. So
the universe's Christmas gift to Albert Cameron is making the stars align. He gets to talk to Dan the Beast Severn.
this is your Christmas present to you.
Yeah. And I'm very happy with it.
I'm sure you
And
are.
I'm welcome. Okay. So, we talked to Dan Severn in Altoona, completely rehashed the man's career. He was so gracious to talk to us. I got to eat pizza with Dan Severn. You had a beer with the man. So, I'm expecting you talk to a guy who's Dan Severn,
Right.
who was the first man to make Royce Gracie sweat. The first guy, he has over 100 career wins.
And this is how awesome the guy is. Just a little behind the scenes insight on this interview. This is actually a two-part interview. When we conducted the interview originally, Dan was in the middle of traffic. You'll hear the GPS in the background.
Yeah.
He was in the middle of traffic. He was driving to an appointment, and he had to cut the interview short because of that. Now, some guys would be like, "Hey, sorry, gotta cut the interview short. Thanks for talking to me. See ya."
Right.
Dan was such a great sport. He wanted to speak to us again. He wanted to continue the interview. So then the next day, we followed up the interview. So we picked up right where we left off. So what you're hearing is actually an interview in 2 parts, but through the magic of editing, one whole interview.
Yeah. So Dan the Beast Severn live on Cage Nation. Not live. Dan the Beast Severn on Cage Nation TV.
Stick around. It's like right now.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Cage Nation, we have a big event here. The man who is practically the godfather of American mixed martial arts, we can say, easily, comfortably. We are talking to the legend, UFC Hall of Famer, Dan the Beast Severn. Dan, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I thought we were on the air already.
No, that was for our benefit. Well, I get to say I talked to Dan Severn. You guys will never hear it. It's one of those things I can just pat myself on the back for.
Yeah, we were having a good time already. All right.
Absolutely. Okay, Dan, getting it started. You were one of the first wave of wrestlers, probably like the first wrestler to come into modern mixed martial arts and prove that jiu-jitsu can be nullified. That was Dan Severn doing that. You proved
I'm literally just a gentleman by the name of Mike Chapman who has probably written more books about amateur wrestling than any other author. I think he's got 25 to 30-some-odd books. And basically, he credits me for walking into a cage one night and turning amateur wrestling into a martial art and unleashing the floodgates of amateur wrestlers that now go into it.
Absolutely. That was my point exactly, Dan. UFC 1, Hoist Gracie just taking names, but then UFC 4, Dan Severn walks in and proves that jiu-jitsu is not unstoppable. It can be tested. Dan, can you explain your wrestling pedigree to us a little bit?
Well, let me. The thing that I would like to say about even in that situation, I only trained for 5 days, an hour and a half a day.
Wow!
And I walked into the world of no holds barred fighting. I never trained a single strike. I never trained a single submission. I had 3 guys inside of a professional wrestling ring. I say it like that because it wasn't wrestling; it was wrestling. Like, the WWE, TNA, those are kind of a couple of the better-known companies that are still on television.
Sure.
And I had 3 guys, and they had an old pair of boxing gloves that they shared between them. As one guy would get tired, he'd pass them on to the other guy, and they used to would just try to punch and kick. I try to avoid being punch and kick, would simply would either close the distance, clinch him, take him down, slap on an amateur wrestling move, and then turn it a little bit illegal, and that was my training camp. I mean, you find anyone else that could have done that minimal of training and then walk away with the results that I did.
So you're saying there are soccer moms who do P90X longer a day than what you train for UFC 4?
Way more.
So Dan, like, you're this wizard at grappling. I mean, you've done wrestling, you've done sambo, you've done judo. Where did that start? Like, when did Dan Severn decide that, I'm gonna go out there and just be all in wrestling?
I started wrestling back in 1969, a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I wasn't until probably by my sophomore year in high school, I really turned left on North Scottsdale Road. Yeah, I apologize, sorry guys. By my sophomore year in high school, that's when I thought that I could really do something with this. My 7th, 8th grade years, I was like any other wrestler, just simply doing what everybody else was doing. And then by my, by my sophomore year, by my freshman year, I set my first goal. I read an amateur wrestling magazine that talked all kinds of aspects about wrestling. It talked about dieting and nutrition and stretching and exercises and goal and mental preparation. And I set my first goal to be the first freshman to ever make a varsity team, and I achieved that success. Not quite really the way I wanted to, but I achieved that success and made it all the way to. Basically, I got put out towards the regional championships, stuff like this, and I just thought, this might be an opportunity if I really put some work into it, that I might be able to achieve something. I preferred football. I love football more than I did wrestling, but the hard part about a team sport like football is you had to have 10 other players that played with your same intensity and enthusiasm. And when someone else would say miss a tackle or a block, something like this, you lose as a unit. And I figured, I'd rather go out there as an individual, because even on a wrestling team, sure, it's a team competition based upon individual performances. We could lose as a team, but I could still win as an individual.
Drew, here's an interesting factoid. Dan just said he loved football. Did you know that Mr. Severn was in the movie Rudy?
I did not know that.
Dan the Beast Severn, again, one of my favorite combat artists of all times, was in the movie Rudy. Right, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great movie. I did not see it until several years after the fact. I mean, I was invited to the premiere, but I did not go. I was off to doing other things at the time. They ended up sending me a copy of the flick, and I'll bet it was 5 or 6 years after the fact I finally took some time out and watched it.
Did it meet your expectations, Dan?
What's that?
Did it meet your expectations? Was it everything you'd hoped it'd be?
No, I enjoy. I really do enjoy like inspirational type movies. It's like for example, like the Rocky movies. I mean, they're all okay, but I enjoyed the first one the best because it was, to me, it was a little bit more true and realistic in nature.
I got you, Dan. Speaking of
before you get to that, I want to see Dan in Expendables 3. If they're going to do an Expendables 3, I want to see Dan Severn in it.
Absolutely. Let's make that happen. If
Can we make that happen?
I'm going to try. I'm going to pull strings. I'm going to pull whatever strings that Albert Cameron can pull. I think that Dan Severn should be in Expendables 3.
I've already been in 2 different zombie movies.
Okay.
Well, we'll get you a guest role in The Walking Dead then. Hey.
Oh, we'll see what we can do. So, Dan, a lot of wrestlers, and I mean, we spoke to Don Fry, and I know you guys are close. But in MMA, wrestlers have a real nasty tendency of engaging in lay and pray tendencies. Now, that is not the case with Dan Severn. As we've seen, once you get a guy to the ground, you knew how to finish him. And precedent I'm talking about whenever you introduced the back of Oleg Taktarov's head to the cage via your knee. How did you develop that killer instinct to finish fights whenever other wrestlers just weren't able to?
I mean, honestly, guys, I was flying by the seat of my pants. The one thing that people come to know about me, I'm a very creative individual. I have, for example, I'm out in the state of Arizona. I just implemented a submission grappling program at Arizona State University, and I will be doing something else at another college back in the state of Michigan, a full-fledged mixed martial arts program. And by fall of 2014, it will actually be an accredited program. So it's kind of unique, the couple things that I do, but it's because I have a degree in teaching. I've been associated with at Arizona State University. I've been associated at Michigan State University. So I mean, I have a long career of coaching the sport of wrestling, knowing how to put together lesson plans and how to in a proper type of stepping order. So I mean, it's I'm kind of getting off the tangent here right now. Anyone who really knows my whole purpose is that I have a whole slew of submission grappling techniques and finishes that nobody has ever seen before. I simply refer to them as my Heinz 57. It's just a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You know, all the fact that I've done judo, sambo, I've mixed martial arts, amateur wrestling, freestyle wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling, and I just combine all that stuff together, and as I'm out there, I mean, I simply just know that the body only bends so many different ways, and I'm pretty creative.
You look tad silly.
Thanks, Mr. J.
So anyway, great interview with Dan the Beast Severn.
Yeah, I got it. Here, hang on. Go ahead and talk.
Okay, great interview with Dan the Beast Severn. There was a point where I was actually a fan of wrestling, like Dan said. He said there was pro wrestling.
Yeah.
There was a point where I was a fan of pro wrestling, and when I was in 9th grade, I actually spent a year amateur wrestling.
You did?
Yeah, I wrestled for a year for the Moshannon Valley junior high wrestling team. I think I had a losing record, but hey, it was a great opportunity. Coach Ed Jones was a great teacher, and I mean, it got me to enjoy the grappling sports. Did I spend a little time thinking that I might have been Dan the Beast Severn as I'm getting on the mat? Maybe. You know, I'll neither confirm nor deny. So, Dan's just been there throughout all of MMA. I mean, he's there from UFC 4 to the years where people are trying to get it banned because they say it's human cockfighting. to the point where now we're getting regulations and up until retirement. So Dan DeBee Severn retires at over 100 career victories. And I'm personally, I'd like to thank him for all his contributions he made to the sport.
And he had the balls to stand up to Vince McMahon.
Oh, yeah.
Vince tried to get him to do an evil gimmick in the corporate ministry, which he wanted him to paint 666 on his forehead.
Dan's like, nope.
Dan looked at Vince McMahon and said, nah, not gonna happen. Nobody looks at Vince McMahon and says, nah, ain't gonna happen. And
unless you're Dan DeBee Severn.
Unless you're Dan DeBee Severn. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, would you tell Dan Severn no?
No.
Absolutely not. But he's such a nice guy. Like, you know, you're getting the stars line to talk to a guy like Dan Severn. I mean, you're expecting you have to go through people, talk to agents, you know, just a bunch of red tape, submit questions. No. It was such an easy, down-to-earth process. And, I mean, that's just what makes Dan Severn a great business person. I mean, if I do business with Dan Severn any day of the week. Like, you know, if Dan Severn was like, hey, I'm selling mouth guards, I'm like, you let me know where I can buy 100 of them.
But you know what you need to do, though, is just to make it look like you did a lot of work.
What's that?
No, just make it look like you did a lot of work. Trying to just like, you know what? I called agents, I called president, I called this guy, that guy.
I couldn't
Facebook chats.
I couldn't, in good conscience, do that because Dan made that such an easy process to talk to. I mean, if I had a choice of talking to the U.S. president, or talking to Dan DeBee Severn, I'd talk to Dan DeBee Severn. And the man made it so easy to talk to him. So I mean, like that just really made this a big moment for us.
You know what? I think I would sign up for Severn Care as opposed to Obamacare, but that's just neither here nor there.
If Dan DeBee Severn were president, I mean, would you want to go to war with a country where Dan DeBee Severn was president?
You know what? There was a time in this country where Ronald Reagan was president and Clint Eastwood had its own police force, and damn it, that's why I love America.
Yeah, I mean,
so yeah, if Severn was president, yeah, I know.
I mean, Dan Severn could move the nation's capital to Coldwater, Michigan. I ain't gonna tell him no.
No, hey, he can do whatever he wants.
Big thanks to Dan, and of course, good luck in everything you're doing. Thank you very much for talking to us. So to celebrate all that is Severn, I dug deep to find a fight. Do you remember when we had the video of Travis Fulton slamming Jeremy Bullock down? Jeremy Bullock comes in with his karate gi, he's like throwing flashy kicks, and then Travis Fulton just slams him down, and it looks like he curled the guy's spine from the wrong way.
I believe I remember that.
A very similar looking cage. Dan Severn is taking on Doug Renfro. We're going to that fight right now.
And there you have it.
The Beast.
The Beast.
The Beast.
Dan the Beast Severn, my friends.
How many people do you think are walking around this planet right now being like, Dan Severn was my wrestling coach. Come at me, bro. Like, but Don Fry. We talked to Don Fry. Dan Severn was Don Fry's wrestling coach at Arizona State.
Yep.
Yeah, and we all saw what happened to Don Fry. He became like an ultimate badass.
He was the ultimate, wasn't he?
Ultimate 2. Dan Severn was Ultimate 1.
Right.
Yeah. So, two guys ever get to call themselves Ultimate champions. One of them for Dan Severn, and another one is someone trained by Dan Severn. Dan Severn's clearly doing something right in the world of combat sports.
And here's the other thing they have in common. They talk to Cage Nation TV.
Boom.
There you go.
Boom. We should really change the name to Ultimate TV, but we're not because we worked really hard on that logo. And
yeah, we did.
Yeah. Okay.
We didn't. That was Kess, but
yeah, but still, it looks good.
It does.
It's brand recognition. Anyway.
So thanks again to Dan Severn for the interview. We greatly appreciate it. Once again, thanks to our good friends at Magnum Broadcasting, Michael and Diana Stapleford.
If you aren't listening to Quick Rock after this is over, you need to do so right now at 105.9 QWYK Rock. They're streaming live.
Right.
Like right now, they're streaming.
We're streaming live 24/7. If you can't get us on, if you can't get us in on your radio, let's say you might be in Pittsburgh or somewhere else, you can.
Or if you're out getting ready to go out to Ohio to watch Ethan Goss fight for the NAAFS and you still want to listen to your Quick Rock, you can do it online. I think you can even you can do it on the iHeartRadio app too.
No, not an iHeartRadio, and I'm going out of screen for a moment because I'm trying to get my phone. But you can get it one of two ways online. As I get my phone out, if you have a smartphone, like my Samsung Galaxy S2, because I'm poor, you can get us directly on the website. All you got to do is type in 1059qwikrock.com on your browser. It'll come up with the website. You'll click Listen Live. It'll take you to a page that you can bookmark on your phone that you can put on your desktop, and you can listen anytime you want. The other way is TuneIn Radio.
TuneIn Radio.
Download the TuneIn Radio app on your iPhone or on your Android device, and you can listen to Quick Rock there as well.
Okay, so again, big thank you to Michael and Diana. Dan Severn, certainly the hero of the day. Make sure you're liking us on Facebook, because we are breaking news all the time. There's all kinds of news that are just, we're getting it, we're putting it on Facebook.
I'm on Facebook right now.
Like us, follow us on Twitter. Great interaction, especially because Cass did a great job of tweeting all the results of events we go to on Twitter. So if you can't make the event and you don't want to plunk down the $10 to catch an pay-per-view, which that, and I'm just judging you just a little bit.
I'm on Twitter right now.
Follow us on Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And ladies and gentlemen, this has been a very, very special edition of Cage Nation TV.
Hey, look, I'm on YouTube right now.
We certainly want to wish all of you happy holidays, safe travels, and
Merry Christmas, and we will see you, next week? We've got a special edition of Cage Nation TV.
Well, you get a 10 count for whenever the ball's getting to drop for the New Year's, right?
Yes.
Well, we're going to be counting down the 10 top moments of Cage Nation TV from May, from when we launched, until today.
So the top 10 moments of Cage Nation TV for 2013. And when we say top 10 moments, they don't necessarily always have to be the best in MMA.
But they mean something to us.
Means something to us. There could be some highlights, there could be some lowlights, but they were definitely newsworthy to us. So tune in next week. Enjoy your Christmas holiday. We will see you for one final episode in 2013, and then it's the new year. And then 2014 promises to be an excellent year for local mixed martial arts, regional mixed martial arts, and all sorts of great stuff there. So keep your tune right here at Cage Nation TV. We'll see you next week. Merry Christmas, everybody.